Hello and welcome to Happily Ever Reality. I'm so glad you're here. You guys, listen, I mentioned it in the last video about Paedon. I thought I was going to be running out of stuff to say about sister wives, but man, the Brown children, they are bringing everything they got. I feel like I am learning more about the Browns, and it is more interesting since this season has ended. I feel like we are getting way more information out of Gwendolyn and Peyton, and even like the news for Mary and Cody. There's been more since the show ended and after these tell-alls than there was during them. I imagine all of you already know what's going on, but just in case you don't, I will fill you in. Paedon Brown did a 3-hour interview with John Yates here on YouTube. You can watch it. It was a live streaming interview, so what he was saying was going out there live. There was no editing and taking back, and he shared a lot of information about the family and about himself, and he sort of implied that there might have been some issues with Mary and how she treated people. I am not going to fill in the blanks. He was not specific, so I'm not going to guess what he was trying to tell us, but he did imply that, Mary might not have been very kind to the children. We know that Christine, Janelle, and Cody all say that Mary didn't treat everyone well in the beginning, but Paedon is taking it a little bit further, and implying that Mary also wasn't kind to them. So I'm just not going to fill in the blanks with how far it went. I think there have been a lot of people doing that, but we don't actually know any specifics. I knew it was going to be difficult for Gwendolyn to sit on this and not say anything because she does have her Patreon, and this is what everyone is talking about. And if by some chance you have not subscribed to her Patreon, I would recommend doing it if you really enjoy the show and like to keep up with this stuff. But if you don't, I'm sure I'm not the only commentator that's going to be talking about some of what she said, so you can always get little bits of information from me or someone else. But she responded. Her video is only 1 minute and 25 seconds long, but it is filled with so much information about her and Paedon and their relationship. She says that she has a lot of trauma related to Paedon and that she has had to seek therapy because of it, and she's still seeking professional help due to that relationship. She says she's forgiven him more times than she can count, and there's no path for him to come back into her life because he hasn't changed. Paedon is really a very polarizing person. If you're watching him do lives or interviews, he has so much energy and he's very arrogant. I hate saying that. I really don't like saying super negative things about people, specifically the kids. I don't mind calling Cody annoying and rude, but I struggle a little bit with the children who were raised in the Brown household because I feel like, I feel bad talking about them. But Paedon, the energy he puts off and the things he says, it can be very, very polarizing. It's easy to see why some people wouldn't like Paedon, but let me tell you some of the words that Gwendolyn used to describe him. She said he was sexist, homophobic, transphobic, racist, and a violent abuser, and one of the most awful people that she's ever known. That's his sister. You guys, I'm like, come on. If your sister's talking about you like that, that is definitely not good. I feel bad for Christine. I actually feel bad for Christine because, these are her 2 kids. You want your kids to get along. You want your kids to be there for each other. But that is not happening here. Gwendolyn goes a step further and says that we should not take anything Paedon says as a fact. And we should also, not really be supporting the content that he is putting out there. Which this creates sort of an issue because when you're watching Paedon, sometimes he says stuff that I think seems truthful. He talked about during that live with John Yates, he said that if Cody was really worried about the kids, then why wasn't he that worried about Truly? That's what most of us viewers have thought the whole time we were watching the show. If it was really about the little kids, why wasn't he super worried about Truly? Paedon will say things we all understand, but then with this issue with Mary, he doesn't give specifics and he kind of just leaves it out there and we don't know what to think. So viewers and people that watched it start guessing, and he doesn't give us anything. And then it's like, well, is he embellishing a little bit? In the heat of the moment, he was getting attention. Is this something he shouldn't have said? We just don't know. And then Gwendolyn comes along and says, you shouldn't take anything he says as fact. And so now we have this additional layer because someone in his own family, his own sister, is saying that he might not be telling the truth. Gwendolyn mentions that she's focusing on school right now and that she is taking medication. She talks about all the traumas she's had in her life, but it's really a short response video. And when she talks about the trauma, she doesn't necessarily imply that it's any one adult in her life that's caused the trauma. So she doesn't really give us anything. She's more responding about Paedon, but she said a lot about him in that 1 minute. You know, those are a lot of really strong words to use about someone, and specifically your own brother. So it's clear that that relationship is done. But again, Paedon is polarizing just to watch. And if he's like that at home, I'm sure it's a lot worse. So while I'm doing this video about Gwendolyn, I also want to talk about what she said about Brianna and Aurora. It was during a question and answer at the end of one of her episode commentary videos. But a subscriber had asked how she felt about Brianna and Aurora's comments when they toured Janelle's RV. You know, we all remember the comments that Brianna and Aurora were kind of making during the walkthrough to see it, and it wasn't friendly. It didn't come off nice. They didn't seem happy to be there. So yeah, Gwendolyn ends up addressing those during a question and answer. And she thought they were rude too. She thought they were rude comments. She said that her and her mom and Isabel tried to be really positive when they were walking through it. They were trying to be supportive of Janelle, you know, doing what she wanted to do in life. So they walked through and they were trying to make the best of everything that was going on. But Brianna and Aurora just didn't have the same attitude. And Gwendolyn actually says that that's just how Brianna is. That Brianna has a history of talking to people like that. Now, Gwendolyn does say she hasn't spent a lot of time with them recently, so they could have changed. Like, they could have grown up and, you know, started to outgrow that and not do it as often. But I guess Brianna used to be like that quite a lot. So this is kind of what their personalities might be like. I don't know why, but it doesn't surprise me. Have you guys ever noticed when they're talking or they're doing like the confessionals or anything with these girls, they don't really seem that happy, which I understand there was a lot going on with the family, but walking in and trying to make the best of it for Janelle and Savannah, that would have just been the nice thing to do. I'm going to be honest with you guys. If it was my kids, before we pulled in and got out of our cars, I would have been like, listen, they're living in an RV. It's going to be small, but we're going to be kind. Even if we don't want to live in an RV, we're going to see the best in this situation and we're going to make them feel good about what they're doing right now. Like, I would have had a talk if I thought my kids couldn't be nice on their own. So Robin clearly needs to start having some talks with her kids about coming in and being kind to people. Even if you don't love what they're doing or want to do it yourself, you find the positive thing to say. Robin needs to do that because her daughters are old enough to have not even needed that talk, but clearly they still did. So I did think it was interesting. I did think it was interesting to hear Gwendolyn acknowledge that and also hear her say that that's sort of how Brianna used to be, and it was rude. They thought it was rude too. During the question and answer, Gwendolyn responded to a few other questions that I thought were really good questions and I was interested in knowing about. One of them was related to the conversation that Robin and Christine and all the wives and Cody had when Christine announced that she was leaving Cody. You know, that was when Robin asked that question, are you going to try to continue to have a relationship with my children? And the question directed to Gwendolyn was basically, why didn't Robin reverse that? Is Robin concerned about continuing to have a relationship with Christine's children? And Gwendolyn's reasoning was basically that Robin's just used to getting a lot of attention. At least that's what she thinks. And so she didn't ever really flip it around. Like, she didn't really, Gwendolyn didn't say it like this, but basically from what I heard, and you guys can correct me if you disagree with this, Robin's so used to getting attention that she doesn't know how to give it to other people when it's needed. That's what I heard. That is not Gwendolyn's words, but basically Robin is so used to everything being about her, she doesn't know how to make it about someone else. So again, that wasn't Gwendolyn's words. That's what I felt like Gwendolyn was implying. I think Gwendolyn tries to often be as nice as possible. Gwendolyn also talked about how during the graduation party, there was a moment where she had Saul in her room and like Robin wasn't comfortable with him being in the room with her. I thought that was so weird, but Gwendolyn says she collects swords, so it's possible that Robin just wasn't comfortable with Saul being in the room with the weapons. But Saul isn't like a super little kid. If you tell him not to touch something, he's old enough to know not to touch. He's not a toddler. So I think there's a point where your kids should have the obedience and the discipline. If you say, do not do that, it's unsafe, they should listen. Yeah, I just had to stop and double check his age before I said it, but he's 11 years old. He should absolutely know better anyway, but I know not all kids, are mature enough to think things through. But Gwendolyn is an adult. It's not like he was in there with the weapons alone. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird situation to me. Either Robin really thinks that Solomon is immature, or Gwendolyn is immature, or the both of them are, or she's just not trusting Gwendolyn, which seems weird to me. But yeah, Gwendolyn said Robin was uncomfortable with Solomon being alone with her in her bedroom during the graduation party. And the last thing I want to mention, Gwendolyn was talking more during the Q&A about how her family doesn't like confrontation. They don't like to have conflict. They don't like to address things. And all I keep wondering is, what is Cody Brown doing now? And does he know about everything that Paedon has said? I can't help but think that it's made its way back to Mary. And even though Mary and Cody are not together, I am sure she still is in contact with him and with Robin. At least I would think so. I don't know. I don't think they're talking a lot, if I had to guess, because I don't think he talked to her a lot anyway. But I think she would feel comfortable picking up the phone to talk to him. I don't think she's calling Christine about this, and I don't think that Cody is either. So I imagine Mary and Cody are talking, but I just wonder how those conversations are going and if Cody is going to pick up the phone and call Paedon. I have a feeling that he will. I think this is when Cody will call someone. He's not going to call you for Christmas or your birthday or to say anything nice, but he'll call you if he's sick and he needs to know how to make himself feel better. And he will call you if he's mad at you and about the way you're talking about him or someone in the family. There are really two ways I could see a conversation going with Cody about this. The first one is that he completely blames Paedon and he goes a step further to blame it on Christine. So basically he could say, look at how Christine's children are being. It's Gwendolyn and Paedon that are out there saying the most. That's not a coincidence that it's Christine's children. She has put all of this in their heads. Paedon is talking about Mary and talking about Robin because of how Christine has talked about them. Gwendolyn is talking about Robin because of how Christine has talked about Robin. So I could see Cody just flat out blaming Paedon, Gwendolyn, and Christine, though I do think Paedon's going to get most of the anger directed at him because he's definitely out there saying the most. And we know Cody doesn't want the kids talking about the family. Paedon mentioned it during John Yates, the interview that they did. Paedon said that Cody wanted to put it in like a contract somewhere that the kids couldn't talk about anyone in the family or they could be sued. At least that was my understanding of it, which is ridiculous. So it's clear that Cody worries about how the kids are going to talk about the family. The second way I could see this going is that Cody sides with Paedon and just completely throws Mary under the bus. The biggest issue with that is that Paedon doesn't always say the most positive things about Cody. He says that, Cody favors Robin. So Cody would have to agree with Paedon on some things, but not other things. And I think that would be really, really difficult for Paedon to do. And I think Cody is just going to be so angry about losing the control. He's not going to have control about what's being told. And I think this is going to be, I bet Cody is just freaking out right now. So I think it would be difficult for him to side with Paedon and then just throw Mary under the bus. Plus, Cody's big thing is that he protects the children. He wants to protect his kids. I do think that Cody loves his kids. I just think there's a lot of them. And Cody was not prepared for this. And I think we've watched Cody just decline as the seasons and years have went on. And his ability to really father all of them, it's pretty much, in my opinion, non-existent. So if Cody admits that Mary, was as awful as Paedon is saying, then it sort of looks like he failed. I think that would be really, really difficult for Cody to admit. But I think more of it is what I said earlier. I don't think Cody could ever sit there and side with Paedon when Paedon is talking about anything. I don't think it would matter what Paedon was saying. I think the fact that Cody is not in control of it, it's going to make it incredibly difficult for Cody to side with him. And I do wonder how in the long run it's going to work out for Gwendolyn. If she's wanting a relationship with her dad, I don't know how often she's going to be able to really go out there and do those Q&As and talk about the family before Cody's just like, no more, not at all. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. There's a lot here. Like, we've just gotten a lot from the Browns. I think more, like I said earlier, I feel like we're getting more now that this show is over. So let me know what you guys think about all of this. I love reading your comments. If you haven't already, be sure to click like and subscribe and come back to Happily Ever Reality to talk more about your favorite reality TV shows.